Hi, everybody. Welcome to another session of hashtag Gather to Grow, here with Food from Zanzi on Instagram Live. So, our topic for today is going to be about setting farming goals 101. SN Poultry, what it means, how to set realistic and achievable farming goals for the upcoming year. That will include, financial targets, production goals, sustainability objectives, just like, starting the year off on the right foot. I don't know if you're one of those people that, sets your goals for the whole year. I've been really happy about, starting my year. So I've actually tried that 12-week goal setting thing. Love this topic. Totally. I love it too, because I think it's just, if you're a new farmer, new entrepreneur, new agribusiness owner, it's important to really map things out. And what better way to do that with goals? So goal setting is super, super essential. Planning is super essential. And my guest this evening is really people from different spaces within agriculture. So I have a business accountant joining us. She's also an entrepreneur. She's the co-founder of Your Private Accountants, and they currently working with Wakanda. Wakanda is an food accelerator program. They do amazing work with agribusiness owners, and I think Jama, I think you've joined. She's also one of our speakers for tonight. Jama has so much insight into the sector, so I'm hoping that she also is able to join and talk on the session as well. I have Johan van Zyl. He is from the University of the Free State. Really great to have you here. And then I also, so Pamela, Johan and Jama joining, as well as one of my favorite economists, Conce, joining. You might know her from the Agri Duo. Two agricultural economists really putting out great content there for anyone within the sector, just really trying to showcase what it's about, how to connect, how to learn, because you always need an agricultural economist in your pocket. You need someone that can advise you as to what's happening and how to sit and where to plan and how to go about things, keeping that aspect in mind as well. So I think we just want to try to kind of give you some information about how farmers should kind of establish clear and measurable goals. We'll talk about financial targets and the key, what key factors farmers should kind of take in. And when I talk about farmers, it doesn't need to be, limited to just the farmers, like hands-on production. If you're running an agro-processing business, you could also take some tips from here. That's totally okay as well. So don't just, think, oh, this is exclusively for farmers. Our discussions is never just solely based on that. So please do stay around. Can't say.
Hello.
Oh, Happy New Year, love. You're so beautiful. I missed your face.
Thank you.
Thank you. I miss your face. How was the holiday?
Very relaxing, very short. And as you mentioned, I missed the electricity we had in December.
Yeah, it's what's that song they sing? Back to school, back to reality. Basically, back to reality.
That's that.
Yeah.
But yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just mentioning that I really don't mind rehashing topics because I think, so much of this content is super valuable. And I think those that missed it will enjoy going over it again. And those that haven't joined our sessions before will also really enjoy just listening to it again. It's Jama! Oh,
Hi,
beautiful Jama. So nice to see you.
Hi.
How have you been?
It's been a bit of an up and down. As you can hear, the little human is crying that he just fell. So.
Yeah, and as I said before, I'm so used to like us having our kids jump on our laps, hang on our shoulders, sometimes sit on our heads, like while we're on these sessions.
Yeah.
I forgive all. And I think the space is just for everyone to kind of understand that we're human beings, we're moms. So that will happen. And I am catching you in evening family time. So I totally understand. Okay. Let me not do much more of the, little extra talks that I usually do. I'm going to ask you both to please introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, where you're connecting from, and then we'll get the show on the road. I'm going to start with you, Jama, because Kansai's been here for a few times. I think a lot of the people know her already. So we'll go with Jama and then Kansai afterwards. Thanks.
Alrighty. My name is Jama Mohale. I am based in Edenville, Johannesburg. My background is organic farming. So I have a PhD in organic farming, but I currently work for Wakanda Food Accelerator, where we have a program. We're working with farmers, so just developing the agribusiness, and the whole point of the program was just to get them to a point where they have consistent supply. So a lot of farmers know how to grow food, but there's a lot of other issues, especially with like managing a farm and the finances that go with it. And we found that the more we engaged with them, a lot of them just didn't really have a good handle on how to run the finances or how to record those kind of things, like the admin part of it. So the program really is just to smooth those things along, so that when they do get into retail or whoever they supply, there's not an issue of this month are good, the next are not. But also when you're applying for funding, they need to see like your financial records, and a lot of them didn't have those ready or in such a manner that they would stand a chance of being considered for those kind of things. So that's what we are currently working on, or working with the farmers that we have on the program. Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you so much, Jama. And I absolutely love the work that you're doing. Every time I talk about someone in the industry, you're like, hey, we know Wakanda Food Accelerator. So you all are very well known. I think a lot of people came through your program. They've benefited from the support that you give them. They've really been able to step up and grow within the industry. So well done on your part, and just keep up the amazing work that you're doing. One of my favorite agricultural economists from the Agri Duo, Kansai, a bit about you. Thanks.
All right. For those that do not know me, hi, I am Kansai Moraba. So I am an agricultural economist. I've been working in agri for the past 10 years now or so, in financing and then strategy, project management, the likes. And about 2 years ago, I think a friend of mine and I decided, you know what, a lot of people do not realize how much agri impacts their lives. So if you do not know me from an agri-economist point of view, you might have seen me perhaps on YouTube. If not, please go and follow Food for Thought with Karabo and Kansai. And that's where we share all things on agriculture, from farm to table. That is talking to producers, talking to growers, talking to agribusinesses, and also talking to the consumers. You know, things like agri trends, consumer trends, prices are going up. Why are eggs so expensive? Usually we are the plug. We tell you why. And also, like, I do a bit of like agri communication. So you also see me doing a bit of what I just said on television. And also I just feel like Food from Zanzi has adopted me. So I'm always on one of their platforms doing this. But in essence, I'm really passionate about agriculture, and I just want to see more people in this space. I feel like it's not represented well, especially by us women and people of color and just young people. And I've seen it grow so much in the past few years, and I cannot wait to see it grow more. And the reason why we have these platforms is to engage with the young people to join. So that is why.
That intro was like 120%. Totally love it. You know, I want to take a screenshot right now, so I have this memory, just like our beautiful faces, just like shining. I love it so much. Okay, I know that Johan is trying to join us. I'll kind of try and connect with him as we go along, but I'm going to go with the first question, and I want to ask you to Jama just to kind of explain to us, you know, how important is it for farmers to kind of establish clear and measurable goals for their operations at the beginning of each year? I know that timelines are different, you know, planting time for this might differ from another crop, but I think there is kind of a universal thing about, hey, it's the start of the year, we should be planning. How does one kind of really start to think about it? Before you really start writing anything down, what should you be thinking about?
Okay, so you touched on the points of with farming, obviously seasonality needs to come into place because even now over December, some of our farmers were busy planting. So for them, the year doesn't really start like Jan like it does
Mm.
for us. So it's always that you need to have some form of I'll use the word plan, but it is subject to change because now, just an example, one of our farmers was supposed to, like his season was in September, but they were hit by drought. Like it got very bad. Then there was wildfires on his farm. So that whole season just had to be scrapped because of something like that. So it's always just to be mindful of where you are. And I think now more than ever, and as much as people are saying climate change, it is a real thing. So now you really need to have contingency plans for stuff like this because with him, the program really focuses on vegetable farms because that's what the retailer we're working with wants. So for him now, it's a bit of a pickle. Like I wasn't able to now plant the crops that are requested, but he has livestock, so that's what he's been focusing on. And I think there's a question much later, but we've also now started thinking about okay, because you've got livestock, what other sustainability things can you do around that? And we're just now working with a colleague of mine on coming up with sort of sustainability plan to help them be more self-sustainable in with regards to the unknown in a sense. So now we're looking at a biogas digester, and I always thought it was so expensive, but it's actually very simple to build. And I was blown away. I was like, ah, really? All you need is just that. And because I mean, there's a lot of manure there, like cows poop so much and it goes to waste. So I was like, okay, if we can get that on his land and he's got a borehole for like now water to sell that, and also there's waste from like vegetables on the other farms as well. So it's to do that. So back to the whole thing of planning, it's always just to obviously it depends on who you are supplying to because I always just try to emphasize the whole thing that don't just go plant before you have somewhere to sell it to because you'll have a whole field that's sitting there with no one to sell it to. And I've encountered that also in I think December, November, where someone approached me like they've got about 9,000 bunches of spinach and they don't have anywhere to take it. So that's another thing as well. Don't just plant because you've got the land. Approach people, and it's not as it's daunting, but it's not. Just try. Like, hey, I've got spinach growing, or that, and some of them are willing enough to tell you that okay, I don't really want spinach, can you grow this instead? That will help you plan with regards to okay, I've got 2 hectares, how much do they want? And then obviously you need to work out the spacing and all of those things that okay, realistically I can produce this much. And maybe they take that produce on a weekly basis, so you need to know that you've got space for week 1 and then space for week 2. Once I harvest here, you need to have a backup plan for next week. And that's another issue that we encountered. People they don't really, like I said, they know how to grow food, but the planning of succession in a sense of like, okay, this week I've harvested here, but I didn't think to plan for next week. There's nothing on the ground. So it's always planning maybe a week apart to make sure that every other week you're able to meet that. And it depends on the type of crop that you're working with, obviously, because the growing seasons or the cycles are different for each one. So I don't think I'm giving a clear answer, but it just depends on what you're growing and what the supplier wants from you. And you just have to factor those kind of things in, like who am I supplying? How often do they want what they want from me? How much of it am I realistically going to be able to supply them with? And then comes in also like buying the seedlings, do you have enough water, all of those things. So it's really
Yeah.
it's sort of overwhelming, but it can be if you don't sit down and sort of plan these things out. And also like someone mentioned crop rotation, those kind of things also kind of help because my background is really just more natural, I mean organic farming. So you look at the more natural ways of doing things, and crop rotation is a big thing, and
Mm.
mulching and all of those things. And I really think those also help with mitigation of like water loss and all of those things. So
Mm.
it does require a lot of planning.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying is to kind of focus on your production planning, which is something, in by itself, it can take just a whole, team to kind of think about how you want to do that and how do you kind of ensure that there's always, money coming in and that you're not just sitting there with, like you say, 9,000 heads of cabbage or, spinach and you have nowhere to go. And that's where the marketing aspect comes in. Like, how do I ensure that I have a secure market for the produce? I think there's some comments here, just a comment from Mungani saying, I think it was when Kanse was talking about how do we kind of change the outlook of what farming is. Mungani saying exactly, let's terminate the stereotype in youth amongst the youth about agriculture. Agree with you 100%. Another comment saying, hey ladies, your conversation is very interesting. I'm glad someone referred me to this live. Yay, shout out to that person. I'm a horticulturalist and a farmer and I have a problem when it comes to marketing and financial admin. I was hoping, I think Jama York, one colleague, Pamela, is going to hopefully still be joining us on this live. She is a private, she's the co-founder of Your Private Accountants. So she's an entrepreneur and business accountant, and I'm hoping that she will give you specific advice on those questions. But I think that can also be just like a whole conversation in itself, just talking about business, admin, financial admin and marketing when it comes to your farming operation. Kanse, I'm going to give you the next question. And if you want to comment on the first question, feel free to do that as well. But what happens when it comes to setting financial targets? What are the key, factors that farmers should be considering to ensure that these goals are both realistic and attainable when it comes to, I want to make like 200,000 Rand. Like, how does one actually kind of set that up? Especially if you're a new agribusiness owner, and especially in light of, financing and accessing financing.
Yeah, so Dawn, that will obviously also depend on the size of your operation, right? So every farm is definitely going to have different operational costs and different type of cash flows. So just generically, when you're thinking about, if you have a farming operation, you're thinking about your financial goals, you need to have some sort of an input-output ratio that you're working with. You need to make sure that whatever money you're putting in on input costs, the production costs, your labor, everything else, when you're thinking just your cash flow, what you get out of it is going to actually be more. When you're thinking your hectare that you're going to get per yield, you need to make sure those 7,000 heads of cabbages were definitely more than what you put into the fertile soil to make it more sustainable for you. And that's when the planning also comes into place that Jama was talking about, because you need to actually have a financial plan where you know how much money you're going to be getting out once you have put the money in, because farming is quite expensive to get rolling in. I mean, when you're thinking the seeds, the fertilizers, the labor cost, the transport, there's so much that goes into it that you need to have some sort of capital to get it running before you sometimes even see a profit, depending on even how long-term your farming enterprise is. Perhaps you're doing something like tree nuts, which might take years before you see, production. Fruitfulness. So you need to make sure that when you enter that farming practice, you have a plan on, okay, mine is a 1 week or 2 week cycle, or it's going to be a 3 years, 7 year cycle, and I have so much money. And you need to talk to people like, for example, if you have a financial person in a bank, like you get people who are specialized in agri-financing. I know some banks offer that, like your ABSAs, and I think also FNB and Standard Bank have agricultural advisors where they understand the business of agribusiness, because financing agribusiness is not like another business model. It's so different because of the seasonality, because of the weather challenges, the environmental challenges, the regulatory challenges. So you need to look at all those dynamics, how it affects your business. And then you need to really look into your cash flow. That is very important. Will you be able to sustain that business? So what you put out, especially your inputs and your outputs, needs to make sense for you to say, these are my goals. And also, as Jama has said, you need to be agile in agri. You could be dealing with a drought, so you need a contingency plan. If you wanted to plant and maybe the season now is a bit late, it's not raining as you expected it to rain, you see some farmers moving to a different crop. Maybe they're planning on doing maize and now they're moving to sunflowers because sunflowers you can plant till a later season. So you need to have those type of thoughts in your idea that, okay, in my land, I can plant this and this as my crop rotation or some sort of a contingency plan and a risk mitigating factor that you need to take into account too. So it's not very black and white. It's a lot of, I think, trial and error. And you basically need to be like a jockey for your farm operations to work and very be persistent and very diligent with your planning. You can't just decide today that you're going to farm and think you're going to be successful tomorrow. You need to have some real good plans in place. I don't know if I answered that correctly. Sorry.
Perfect. Please don't apologize. I think all of what you're sharing is valuable. Both you and Jama really gave us a lot of broad things to think about. My practical brain wants to already start thinking about, okay, but how does one actually do that? But I think for now it's good that we're giving, an overview and thinking around, okay, I'm new to this thing. Now I know I need to go and find an agricultural financial advisor at any bank I'm choosing to bank with. That's something that you can literally list. Find a agricultural financial advisor. That's something that you can do. Yuan, welcome to the session. I know you were having some trouble connecting. I'm so happy that you're here. Maybe, as the ladies introduce themselves in the beginning, tell us who you are, where you're connecting from, and also just more about your work within agriculture.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me all?
Yeah, we can hear you well enough. Thanks.
Okay. I'm Johan van Zyl. I'm working since 2002 with entrepreneurs and upcoming farmers. I don't like the word upcoming farmers. I rather say small commercial farmers, because that's the idea to move a farmer from a small commercial farmer to a bigger farmer. So yeah, I'm at the university. I was at the University of the Free State up till 2019. Then I moved to CUT. But I'm still running a project for the University of the Free State. It's called the Standard Bank Agri Transformation Program. 5 years on the go of this program, uplifting farmers, small commercial farmers to bigger commercial farmers. Standard Bank is sponsoring the project. So it's a really big project. Up till now, in the 5 years, we went through 177 farmers, and the success rate is about 96%. So the dropout is very low. It's a year program. Once a month, we give some training. We also do a lot of practical training for farmers. And then also we do 2 years of mentorship. So after a group is done, for 2 years, they are on a mentorship phase. And they can call any of us. So it's not only me, but a few other lecturers also part of it. And then we help them. Like I just hear now, everybody's not all that clued up in agriculture because it's a different industry and a difficult industry, so it's not that easy. So yeah, so we help them as far as we can. We help them with animal health, crop rotation stuff, all those kind of details. So so this is what I'm doing for the last, if I can say, 20 years. I've got a passion to help people to be sustainable, because this is what we need. We don't need farmers that try 1 year and then the next year are out. We need sustainable farmers so that we can have a sustainable food production. So and I think this is where my passion is lying to do this. So I hope it's a good background around myself.
Definitely, and I think you cut out a little bit because the connectivity isn't great, but I think what you were saying was so interesting. I didn't want to stop you at any point, because sorry. I think so many of the farmers in this space fit your profile for that program that you're running. So I definitely want to see how we can connect with you to see what the intake is like, how we can really connect with you outside of this space to kind of see how we can get more farmers involved in the projects that you're running through the university. PhD and through the bank that you mentioned as well. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I think I'm happy to have been able to connect with you. You're perfectly aligned, your position and all of your experience, to what we try to do here on Food from Mzansi with Gather to Grow as well. Twice a month, we come onto this platform, share an hour worth of information, which is literally us just scratching the surface on a specific topic. But thank you so much for your time. I'm going to see if I can go back to Conse or Jama, either one of you, with my next question, which is more around, what strategies or tools can farmers use? And I'm going to stop saying farmers, agriculturalists use to, kind of assess and forecast market trends, while setting their financial goals. Where do they go to? I know that there are many resources for them to kind of look at what's in the market, what's trending, but how does one what are the resources? Where can we go to? Who do we speak to? Where can we start thinking around that kind of planning?
Okay, Jama, if you don't mind, I'll go first.
Yeah.
My first one was the market reports. In South Africa, we're actually quite fortunate. We still get like a lot of the producer organizations doing market reports. Some of them you'd find publicly free, and some I think you need to pay for if you want more in detail. So you'll get like a Grain SA that will provide you daily grain market trends, so you can see what's happening with the prices. They can provide you with why the prices are moving the way they are moving, either because of global trends or local trends. And they even have input reports where they will tell you what's happening with the fertilizer market, what's happening with some of the herbicides, for all the row crops, because Grain SA covers like your maize, your sunflower, your oil seeds, and your wheat as well sometimes. And I know those literally an email just to Grain SA, and someone can provide you with those if you're not on their subscribed list, right? So you don't need to pay for that. It's a service that is provided for the farmers pay levies, and it's publicly available. And I think the same will go for the South African Pork Organization. If you're a pork producer, you can get that information from SAPO. You can get that information also from the poultry organization. I know the RPO also does reports. So the red meat producers, they also have market reports. So for the livestock, the poultry, the red meat, the sheep guys also, if I remember correctly, I haven't dealt with mutton and sheep in a very long time since I left the bank, but I believe they did have reports. So if you just go on the website and you literally just type, I guess, a producer organization for your crop, you might be able to find something, especially like potatoes, like the big ones you'll find. If you're dealing with fruits, Podgrow and they might provide you with market trends and stuff like that. Podgrow, your avocados would be Subtrop, so there's a subtropical organization as well. So in South Africa, we're fortunate. I think vegetables is the only one that's a bit difficult, but potatoes we have. But the producer organizations will provide you with market trends. So that can keep you up to date with what's happening in the industry. What are they expecting might change? And then you plan accordingly. And then another thing that I know that has worked very well when I talk to my growers, it's networking. So people know what is happening in the industry, and they're forecasting because they're talking to their neighbor, they're talking to other farmers, they're going to conferences where they meet other producers who are doing the same thing that they are doing, and they're discussing amongst themselves, creating their own semi-groups, helping each other out, right? It can be daunting. I'm sure networking is not for everyone, but I believe if you're working in agriculture, you need to have like a friend or a neighbor that you can call on just when you get stuck. And then you get a lot of like these technical platforms that will give you like satellite imagery. I currently work in crop protection. So we use a lot of satellite imagery to see if there's a pest that is problematic in a particular area. So if you are a commercial farmer, sometimes you get these satellite imagery companies. Depends. There are actually quite a lot of them in South Africa. Just might have forgotten some of their names, but I will send Dawn a list. And you can see if there is some problematic pest or disease perhaps affecting your crops. And that's how some of these farmers are planning for their disease pressures or mitigating it once it's there. So you get that, and also for the weather. I mean, we have, yes, the South African Weather Services, but you do get these weather platforms that can also kind of tell you what is going to happen in the next week or two, or forecast a bit what the season might look like, which will help with your planning. So I think mainly those are the ones I've used that I have heard of. So the networking is not necessarily a tool, but it's a strategy for you to use. But the market trend reports really help a lot. Everybody, oh yeah, and there's BFAP, I forget. BFAP does these really cool forecasts that can even show you the trends that are forecasted for like the next 5 to 10 years, obviously subject to change because it's based on models, but they do a very, very concise and I think a very thorough research on almost all the crops and the livestock in South Africa that you can find, also publicly available documentation that you can find on the internet.
Thanks, Conce. That was super thorough. Other speakers, would you guys like to add anything else to that? I think she gave us a really long, list of resources. Jama, Yuan?
I think
yes. I just want to get a step or two back and say with the farmers that I'm working, I'm giving them a table that I developed to do an environmental analysis. So marketing is part of it and so on. Also other influences like technology, political stuff, legal things, the economy and so on. And this is a way for them to think out of the box and to do some research on what is going on and what will have an impact on your objectives at the end of the day, your financial objectives. So I just want to say that it's also important that depending on the different enterprise prices you have on your farm, you must first do an enterprise budget. So you must look at the market price and where's the market available, and then you need to do an enterprise budget. What are the input costs and so on. So this is a lot of things that farmers not always do because they see it's a lot of work. And it's not like that because the first time you completed the table, the next time it's very easy to do it because you already sit with a lot of information and you just update the table. I would love to share it at a stage with you. But then a few other things, like you say, to get some of the input cost. And I know farmers and record keeping for farmers is also not good. So they only put the slips and the stuff in the cabin of the bakkie and then the wind is blowing it out and then you don't have any record. But it's important to keep record. But when I do enterprise budgets with the farmers, I show them, and the one that I love is Pro Farmer from GWK, Griqualand West Co-op in Douglas. They update that website of them every 3 months, so you have always new information, new cost. What is the diesel cost? What is your cost, and so on for different products. So that's a quite nice one. There's also a company in Joburg called Risk Flow. They also have a lot of detailed information around input cost and market cost and so on. So I think there's a lot of different ones. I know that the Department of Agriculture in every province have also proper enterprise of products, but they not marketed to the farmers. I don't know why, but it's available. I saw the people that were on the program last year, on the Standard Bank program, there was 4 agricultural economists, and they show me that what they have as part of the department. So yeah, it's available. I think people must just do a lot of research to make sure that they get hold of it, because you cannot plan, you cannot do any proper planning of objectives if you don't have all that detailed cost. If your records fine, then it's good, then you can work from your records and you can just update the increase in prices and so on. But it's a lot of work. So if you can use a Pro Farmer of GWK, they do it for you. You know, every 3 months you've got new updated prices and so on. So it makes it a lot easier. But yeah, like the previous speaker is saying, everything is available. You must just do some research and go to the websites and so on. You will get all the information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yuan. I wish the network was better because you're cutting out, but I think we got the gist of it. And I do apologize. I think we kind of understand that we're in different spaces. Pamela was supposed to connect with us. She wasn't able to because she's actually at the Kruger Park. So we forgive her. Yeah, she's still on holiday.
Here with me, it's some thunderstorms, so that's why the signal is not good.
Thunderstorm. So we forgive you, Johan. But I think the information
Sorry for
the
that.
information is super vital. So I'm not going to cut you at any point. I'm just going to ask everyone who's joining to please just understand that I think there's lots of valuable information. So I'm not going to cut him at any point. It's just to kind of pick up on what you can catch. And I think all of these resources, I'll be able to put it up. I think when we do the article, we'll actually try to do like a list of resources. I think that's a good idea for us to go moving forward. So whatever's discussed here, because as you know, all of these sessions are available on Food from Zanzi's YouTube channel. If you've missed any part of it, you can go back and listen to it there. And we also published an article on the Food from Zanzi website. And as soon as Johan mentioned enterprise budgets, I just wanted to also highlight that last year I did a podcast episode on how to implement farm enterprise budgets. So you can also access that information on Food from Zanzi. If you go to Food from Zanzi, go to Farmers Inside Track channel. You'll see that there's an enterprise budgets podcast episode, so you can learn exactly how to set that up as well. I think Kante also just talking about Pro Farmer, but thank you, very informative. Thank you so much. Jama, I'm going to give you the floor. You also wanted to add something, and then I'm going to ask my next question after you've shared your comments. Thanks, Jama.
Okay, it was very brief. As Constance mentioned, that vegetables are a bit difficult, but in Joburg we've got the fresh produce market, which also updates the prices, but that's also very competitive, and farmers are there at like 2 a.m. to make sure that by the time their doors open, they can get their produce in there. So it's also very, like I said, it's competitive. So it's one of the what do you call
resources or platforms.
Yes. Coming back to our program, we are specifically working with a specific retailer. So the farmers are producing specifically for them, but obviously there's stuff that they don't take, so the farmers take it somewhere else. But they have to also work with the prices that the retailer sets for that particular produce. And in some cases, they have to negotiate, obviously, the prices that, okay, this works, this doesn't work, which is also kind of like a give and take. It doesn't always go that way. So I think there you need to build a relationship, and then you'll get to a point where you can, I suppose, get better prices, because it differs depending on who the buyer is and all of those things. So it's a tricky one, I'd say.
It is, yeah. Jama, I'm going to keep you and actually ask my next question, and then you can take it first. It's around, sustainability objectives. What are some of the practical ways that farmers can set, achievable, environmentally friendly goals without compromising productivity? What should they be thinking about? We're all talking about farm sustainably. But, this is a career. People need to make money. So how does one really kind of think about that when you're setting farm goals and when you're kind of thinking about that aspect of your agribusiness? Thanks.
Okay. All right. I'd say that with more looking at practical things that you can do, obviously it takes a bit longer. Like I'd say with regards to soil fertility, which is a big thing now, and we're trying to move away from using very harmful heavy chemicals on our soils, so farmers can look at composting, because you've got a lot of waste on the farm itself. So start a little compost heap actually close to where you are growing your stuff. Compost that and add that as you go to your soil. And also just when you harvest, it's not always to just make sure that the soil is like super clean and all of that. And obviously it needs to go with, if there are diseases, then yes, you must take off all of those stuff. But think about incorporating that into plowing it into the soil as well, because then it breaks down and adds organic matter to your soil, which then over time works for your benefit. And also mulching, so moving away from just having bare soils when you're planting, like it's just a little plant, like you see the stalk and the leaves and the soil is very bare. Think about putting straw or hay or whatever sort of dead material, plant material that breaks down easily over the soil. That helps with water conservation, so you don't water as much. And also with evapotranspiration, when it's very hot, you won't lose water as quickly. So those are some of the things that you can look at with regards to sustainability. And like you said, you don't want to lose money, but so even the stuff that the dead plants or last season's crop, that's still something, that's still money that can go back into your soil and enrich it, instead of like always going to buy some sort of chemical to add. Because and I'm not trying to bash anyone, but with heavy chemicals, they work as a drug for the soil. Well, once the soil is so dependent on that chemical, there's no way that it can produce once you stop. So you need to start looking at more natural ways of enriching your soil fertility, making sure that there's good life. Like earthworms are great. Like if you see earthworms, be happy. Those things are good for your soul, and like that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I can say for now.
Yeah, thanks, Jama. Johan, would you like to comment on that one as well?
Okay, thank you. I think rotation, you are a crop farmer, so you need to have objectives around crop rotation. Also, when you're a livestock farmer, you need to have, camp rotation objectives. How are you going to do this? And then something that I always realize, and then farmers sitting in the class, and we talk about your grazing capacity of your farm. All of or most of the farmers are overgrazed in terms of grazing capacity. So there's a formula that I can give at the stage how to work out depending on where's your farm. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can still hear you, Johan.
Depending where's your farm, what is grazing capacity in that specific environment. And then you can work out how many animals, like how many cattle or how many sheep you can carry on your farm. So that's another very important thing to be sustainable and not to ruin your veld and overgraze. Then also soil analysis. I'm not saying you must do soil analysis every year, but it's important that you at least once every 2 years or 4 seasons that you do a soil analysis. What is the soil and what's needed in soil, and what kind of fertilizer you can give. There's also something that farmers not always know, and even big commercial farmers don't know it. What's the difference between, and I will elaborate on another stage, the difference between chemical fertilizer and the mixed fertilizer, because there's a huge difference, and people go for mixed fertilizer because it's cheaper, but it's not always very effective. But we can talk later on that one. So yeah, I think you need to look at your soil, you need to look at your veld to be sustainable and still to produce enough for your farm to earn some financial profits from the farm. So thank you.
Thanks, Johan. And for those who's just kind of coming as the conversation is going on, we're just talking broadly around, farm goal setting. Setting farm goals, different aspect of it. We started with what it means to set clear and measurable goals at the beginning of the conversation. How do we ensure that, these goals are realistic and attainable? We spoke about the significance of setting production goals in farming. We've just been running through all the aspects of goal setting when it comes to your farming production. And of course, this will vary depending on what type of, what you're producing and where you're based. So it won't be the answers for everyone all at once, but we're hoping to kind of just give you some information to be able to start planning. And there's no answer for everyone. We won't have one way of doing this. So what works for your farm, Conse, won't work for my farm, as Dawn, as same with Johan. So it's important that we also keep that in mind. I want to talk about technology. What role does technology play in helping farmers to set and achieve their goals for the year, particularly when it comes to improving efficiency and focusing again on sustainability? Conse, I want to ask if you can take this one. I think there's so many, aspects that we can focus on when it comes to tech. I will definitely try and get tech experts in within the next few months to also talk about technology within agriculture. But if you can just touch on kind of specifically when it comes to goal setting and planning, how important is incorporating technology into your practice and overall production strategies?
All right. Yeah, John, I'll be quick since we don't have much time, but we are working with a lot of data on our farms every single day. And some farmers do capture all of this on an Excel, and it just lies there and they don't really use it. So we are seeing a lot of increase now in data analytics, where there's farm management systems that are being developed. And even if you don't have a fancy farm system being developed, you can literally do trend analytics on Excel with your data. It can help you to analyze what is happening with your crop performance over years, what is happening with your soil health, and that can help you to actually make more informed decisions. So you can actually see patterns and trends in the data that you're gathering from when you input certain pesticides and herbicides. When do you water your plants? How much do you water it? And those things are going to help you to know where you are making losses and where you are having the biggest wins. And you can actually see yourself perhaps even managing some of these inputs better, like your water usage. You can see, okay, at this plot, I used so much water and so much input and I had a higher yield. So then because you have this data either in a software or in an Excel sheet that you just built on yourself, you can then go and actually reproduce that plot and create a better farming system for yourself that is more profitable, more efficient. So we need to start thinking of farming like that. Use the data that you have using tools like your Excel, using farming systems if you are more advanced, that you can buy that is like really affordable. Actually, some of these software systems are not that bad, and it's not even that complicated. We just need to start to gather the information that we have. And just when I'm thinking now, that is like data analytics, right? I know it sounds very big and fancy, but it doesn't have to be that. And it's very much in line with your precision farming. If you've got technology such as your GPS guided tractors or drones that are actually helping you with precise planting or fertilizing or harvesting, that is optimizing your resource usage. So we need to start thinking and using those type of things. Especially with the irrigation. Water is such a scarce resource. You want to make the most of it. So you get like automated sensor-based irrigations that know which daytime, nighttime, and how much milliliters to extract and send to the plots whenever, and that works better. So when we're thinking technology, that's where we need to be thinking about. It's happening so fast. South Africa is quite quick to adapt to things, and a lot of people are using it. So if you aren't using it, like I mentioned earlier when you're networking, maybe it's a conversation you need to start having.
Definitely, I think Johan wanting to say amen to that.
I agree fully with that.
Yeah, any thoughts on your side in terms of what you also just, carry over to your students?
Not because the time is now a bit limited. I just want to say, every district, municipality and local municipality have some extension officers from the department side. And I think they must also use, technology like phone technology or so to communicate in a better way with farmers. Because many farmers, are not up to date with what is going on, what is some of the stuff that the department can help them with, how the different programs of the department is working and so on. So that's also some technology that I think people can use, or the extension officers can use to communicate in a better way. Because like we said, communication is a very important part of farming. You need to communicate with your fellow farmers, but also with other people that are more knowledgeable, like co-ops, extension officers, and so on. So I think that's the only thing I want to add now from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Johan. And then we have someone asking here, farmers asking, are there farmers who have filters to filter salty water from boreholes, and how sustainable is it? Johan, I'm not sure if you'd like to take this one. I made a note of the question so that I can actually go back and find out from some other experts. But Johan, are you aware of this?
Yeah, I did a business plan for a farmer close to Indalsrus, which is, the mines are polluting the underground water a lot. So the only way is you get some filters or a filter system or a whole system. It's very expensive. For him, it was 3 million rand to put that system up because the water was so polluted that the animals cannot even drink it. And there's no other way. You need to pump water from boreholes. That's the only way you can farm on his farm. So yeah, so there's things available. We first need to test the water, see what is the things you want to get out of the water or get rid out of the water. And then we can work out a system that will work for them to get some better quality water for animals or for other human purposes and so on.
Quite a bit of money there, 3 million. But I hope that answers your question. If it's something that you need to do, I guess you have to budget for it and see how you can make it work for you if that's the only way you need to access your water. Thanks so much for that feedback, Johan. My last question would just be, how often should farmers review or potentially readjust their goals throughout the year? Considering the dynamic nature, and agricultural practices, when do you reflect? Okay, if I'm setting my goals now, what do I do for the rest of this time? How closely do I monitor it? How do I use my data? Conse, I'm going to start with you. Thanks.
All right. Dawn, as you mentioned, agri is very dynamic, right? It's not new year, new me. You start the 1st of January and then you have your fitness plan and that's it. Anything can happen at basically any time. So when we're thinking row crops, usually when we in our enterprise are thinking about agriculture, we have a pre-planting time that we are strategizing. You are thinking, okay, we are reviewing our goals, what happened last year, what is happening this year, what is the weather looking like, are there any changes in the input cost, what are our markets doing, what are the competitors doing, and this is how we're going to price whatever it is that we are selling. That is all pre-season, and that is like a goal that you put based on all those factors I just mentioned. And as you go on in your pre-season closer then to the season, then you have the mid-season when it's kind of like in there, but stuff happens. You could find that, okay, maybe your crop or your livestock progress through that growing season isn't performing the way you'd want it to be performing due to weather adversities or something like that, then you assess your goals again. Then you consider factors like your pests and your disease pressure, your weather impacts, your emerging market trends, what's happening. And then there's also now the harvest time that you're reviewing again. Okay, post-harvest, okay, it's a very crucial period now to evaluate what were your yield outcomes, what were your production costs, what were the market prices, what am I going to plant next year? If I'm going to plant next year, what is my cash flow looking like? Do I even have money to put in again next year? We're going back to the enterprise budget that Johan mentioned. So you have to constantly be reviewing in agri. Unfortunately, I think depending on what you're growing, probably every 2 or second month. I don't think I've ever heard of a farmer who's not aware of what's happening every single day, honestly. I don't think you can sleep a whole month and say, I'm going to review in March. You will not make it. So I think it's almost like an everyday you are aware of what's happening in your industry and you make plans accordingly, because those hojas, they just come into your field. You don't know when they decide to come. It could be like it rained today and some hoja decided to spring up, and then you have to take care of it. And then that's a cost you didn't have. So now you have to decide if you're going to be planting that thing next year because it's more susceptible to maybe rainfall. Now you're checking the weather patterns. It's going to be a wetter season next year. Stuff like that. And you're always also thinking about the financial periods. Like, what are people consuming? Are you going to plant carrots this year if people are not really consuming carrots? What is happening with the financial period? What's happening with the market updates? What's happening with technology update? So in agri, you are constantly planning, you're constantly re-evaluating, and you're constantly changing. That's why we have stuff like crop rotation. And we have different market access. You're trying this market and you're trying that market. You're always almost evolving. So I wouldn't say you can relax and do it every 3 months. I would say almost every bi-weekly have a strategy session to know what's happening on your enterprise, depending on what you're growing. But honestly, livestock crops, I think it's the same thing. Because crops also have diseases and things.
Yeah, thanks for that, Conse. Big red flag for me, like constant monitoring, constant data capturing, constant record keeping. That's important. No doubt. Johan, your comments. Thanks.
Yeah, I can just add, and I fully agree with what you're saying. If you think of the diesel price, every month there's either an increase or a decrease. So you need to listen and you need to plan to say, let's say, there's an increase in the diesel price before you need to start planting. And you must make a plan to say, but can I start planting earlier, or can I, buy a tank or two of diesel so that I have it for a cheaper price? Sometimes, like in last year, the diesel price rise by 2 rand a litre. So if you have a big tractor and you need to plow and plant and so on, it's a lot of extra money that you need to spend on. The same with the interest rates. You've got a loan from the co-op, now the interest rates are going up. So so it's really a constant way of looking at what is going on in the economy, in the market environment, with technology stuff, and also some of the legal things. The minimum wage is going up. What am I going to do? Can I still keep the number of workers on my farm? So we can talk a lot about this, but it's very important. And I think this is sometimes where farmers are not always hands-on. I always say, and there's an Afrikaans saying, so ver van jou goed naby jou skade. So meaning far from your farm, there's a lot of problems that can happen. So I think for farmers and most of my farmers in the program is staying on the farm, which help them, to look at all these kind of differences and price variations and so on. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Johan. Thank you so much, Conse. A virtual thank you to Jama as well. She had to run for her little one. She did mention in the beginning that little one was moaning already. So we do appreciate her time and the time that she could give us. I just want to thank everyone for joining this live session. As you know, this information will be available on Food for Mzansi's YouTube channel, and you can check out the detailed article where we highlight some of the key aspects of this discussion. May this year bring you nothing but blessings and good things. Thank you so much for your time to both of you, and have a great rest of the evening. Bye for now.